Hey y'all, my name is Priscilla and welcome back to my channel Bookie Charm. For today's video, I'm going to be doing the 10-year book challenge. So Jocelyn, my good friend over at Yogi with the Book, actually tagged me to do this, so thank you so much for tagging me. And this is a tag that was created by Rincey over at Rincey Reads. I have been a big fan of Rincey for a very long time. She's one of the first booktubers I followed since discovering BookTube, and also why I'm so into like the book Read Harder challenge, because she contributes a lot to Book Riot's channel. And I'm just a big fan, so happy to do this tag. So question number one is, what was your favorite book in 2009? Okay, maybe I should talk a little bit first about 2009, because 2009 was not my best year. It was actually one of the worst years of my life, to be quite honest, and I feel like I've done a complete 180 by the end of the decade, so that's cool. But I wasn't reading a lot in 2009. In 2009, I was a freshman and sophomore in college. So academia is traumatizing. I was dealing with that along with a lot of other personal things. Most of what I was reading was for class, and it was like excerpts. I don't actually remember reading a full-length novel that year for class. So I think my favorite book in 2009 was probably a Harry Potter book, because that was my favorite series growing up, and that was one of the series that I reread. So I'm gonna say The Prisoner of Azkaban was my favorite book in 2009. Question number two is, what is your favorite book of 2019? This is so tough and so unfair. I haven't even come out with my favorite books of 2019 video yet. But when I think about 2019 and the book that most defined my year, that I will look back on, yes, I read this book that year, I think it's gonna be not that one. For now, let's just go with Octavia Butler's Dawn, the first book in the Xenogenesis series, because this book is a lot, and it's a lot. It made me think, it makes me think to this day. It's one of those books that sticks with you months and months, maybe even years after having read it. And this is why I can only handle one Octavia Butler series per year. So I think 2019 was the year of Dawn. And I've talked about this series on my channel a number of times, so I'm not gonna go through like the whole squeal of like what it's about, but if you want to know, I did do a full video review and I'll link that in the cards above. Question number three was, what was your least favorite book in 2009? So in 2009, like I said, I wasn't reading a lot, but I do remember reading like a handful of things. I was shopping at grocery stores for cheap paperbacks, market paperbacks that were easy on my broke college wallet and budget. And I think that I'm pretty sure I started picking up Nicholas Sparks that year, which yikes, because Nicholas Sparks is a Christian that I think he was funding this Christian school that promotes conversion therapy. So hey y'all, I was fact checking this and I can't find the article, but he's still homophobic. Don't recommend his romance Christian novels, but I'm pretty sure I read Dear John that year. What is the message in that book? Like, that book was so bad. It's poorly written, and this is what I thought of romance at the time, mind you. Bad on me and shame on me for completely writing off romance because I read a Nicholas Sparks novel. Dear John, if you don't know, is the love story mostly written in letters between this soldier and this woman from his hometown that fall in love, and most of their time spent together is not really together. It's over these letters because he is on tour, he's abroad, and it's like her waiting for him most of the time, and it's really depressing and sad. Yeah, probably the worst book I read that year. Question number four was, what was your least favorite book in 2019? Most definitely The Storm Runner by J.C. Cervantes. I think I've mentioned this a number of times as well, but it's just a super disappointing book for me. But for variety's sake, another book that I really didn't like was The Gilda Stories by Joel Gomez. It's the story of a black vampire. It's one of those classics, and that in its time, it was very revolutionary, but now it's, I think, sort of a classic, a modern day classic for feminist vampire lore and the genre. There was a lot of I think missteps in Gilda's development because I didn't really understand Gilda after having been with her for so long in this book. So Probably this one. Question number 5 is, what is a book published in 2009 that you still want to read? I don't know because I didn't look this up. Let's look up books in 2009. Well, The Help was published that year, but I definitely don't want to read that. I read The Maze Runner. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure I read City of Glass. I think I have Hush Hush, but I don't want to read that. Born to Run. Oh my God, I read that book and that... Oof. Oh, Columbine. Columbine by Dave Cullen was published in the year 2009. I definitely want to read that book. That's been on my radar for such a long time. I think it's a journalist that compiles 10 years worth of information in a book about the Columbine shooting. And that's a topic that I think is really prevalent in our time, especially where I'm from, where guns are just so much more valued in terms of law than human rights in some places. So that's a book that I'm super interested in reading. Question number 6 is, what is a book published in 2019 you want to get to before 2020? We are in 2020, so I'll just say books that I want to read from 2019. The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. I haven't read Colson Whitehead yet, but that's a book that's been on my radar for a very long time and that I think is a good way to start with him. Maybe if you've read Whitehead, maybe you can let me know. But I know that this book is sort of inspired by a real school that existed in Florida that would take in boys, and it's kind of a traumatizing book, a look at this traumatizing events that happened to these Black boys at this school. That's kind of the gist of what I think the story's about, and Whitehead is a Pulitzer-winning writer, I think. He's won a number of awards, so he's definitely a writer I want to get to, and that's a book that I want to read. Question number 7 is, what is a genre you used to read a lot of that you don't read as much anymore? I think I used to read, now I read so much more, so I feel like I read a lot more varied. Back then, I think that I was really into like long series. I would get into so many of those like 8, 10, 15 long book series when I was younger. I read like the entire Vampire Darren Shan series, or most of it. You know, the Daughters of the Moon series is another 12-book long series. So a lot of like super long series. I think now I read much more standalones as opposed to series. So I don't know, that's not really a genre, but that's the first thing that's coming to my mind right now. So question number 8 is, what is a new genre you've discovered since 2009? Probably poetry, I think, would be the newest genre. I was reading a little bit of poetry in 2009, but it was mostly like classical stuff because I was a Latin major for like a hot second, and I was reading a lot of like classical Latin poetry. But I think now I'm getting a lot more into modern poetry. Some of my favorites these past year were Danette Smith. I really enjoy Tommy Pico and Jose Olivares. So definitely modern poetry. So question number 9 is, what is a reading or book habit you are hoping to leave behind in this decade? Not so much a habit, but just making sure that I am aware of what kind of authors I'm picking up. A lot of the authors, like I said, a lot of those series that I mentioned were white authors. So yeah, just leaving behind all of those basic white authors to discover a lot more authors of color and stories that I didn't have when I was younger. So question number 10 is, what is a new reading goal or habit you want to create in the upcoming decade? Well, I have a full video discussing my goals for the next year, so feel free to check that out. But in terms of like the next decade, a goal, I think the biggest one I have is just reading as varied, reading as widely as I possibly can, and just really understanding the things that I like, that I don't like, that I love, that I hate about literature, about media. And love and hate are really strong words, but I really want to have strong opinions about things. And the only way to do that is to push my limits, to jump out of my comfort zone and really experience different stories from different people and from different places. So that's, I think, my biggest goal for the entire decade. So that is the 10-year book challenge tag. So thank you again to Jocelyn for tagging me, and thank you to any other booktuber that tagged me in any book tags that I didn't get to last year. I think that I want to move forward in 2020 with a fresh slate and just start brand new. I usually keep track of those tags, but I don't think that I'm gonna get to them. So thank you for tagging me, and thank you for watching this video. But that's all I have for today. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next video. Bye.